Last week, I shared my top 25 most played games of all time, and this week, I want to do a kind of a follow-up video. What I'm going to be discussing today is the difference between high replayability and infinite playability. Now, this is something I've mentioned on the channel before, so if you want to check out my other work, you're watching Rayl Deal Games, and I've got a lot of good stuff for you to watch. I make new gaming videos every Wednesday and Friday, and if you like this one, maybe consider subscribing and checking out my other stuff. So back in the day, in the 80s, 90s, video games were designed to be highly replayable. In fact, the replay factor of games often factored into their final score for reviews from loads of publications. How replayable is the game truly? Even genres that I don't think we usually typically associate with high replay value, like JRPGs for instance, they had high replay value as well. Final Fantasy 1 was designed for you to pick jobs, get locked into them, and then maybe next time go try a different team comp, a new build craft, right? Final Fantasy 2 was also like this. Let's check out some new ways of progressing through the game. That game was very, very broken, and it didn't really work out that way, but that, I think, was the intention behind the design. And loads of vintage games are like this, where they're designed for you to be able to replay it. Roll credits, replay. Roll credits, replay. Because what's going to prevent somebody from going to Blockbuster, renting your video game, beating it in a weekend, and not wanting to play anymore? Well, there's two things. You can either make it incredibly difficult, like they did with The Lion King, right, and other various NES-type games or SNES games, or you can have insanely high replay value. Now, at the time, the idea of replay value and infinite playability would be the same thing, right? And so these things there's a nuance between them, though. A nuance that comes with the introduction of live service games and content rollout, okay? So I've got a couple games I want to talk about today. I want to talk about Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch, Final Fantasy Tactics, and From Software's Souls games. And I chose this set of games very specifically. There's no way to pick, outside of like MMOs, for instance, there's no way to pick a live service game from the vintage era. And I haven't played WoW or Final Fantasy 11, so I couldn't use them as examples. But I'm familiar with the business model. So they would be examples of infinite playability from the age of antiquity, right? But since Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege placed really, really high on my most played games of all time, I felt like they would be the ones I could talk most reasonably about. So I want to talk first about infinite playability for these specific examples. So Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege are infinitely playable games because there's no start end. There's a match, and you play a match, and you play a match. It's actually kind of like arcade fighting games back in the 90s. Those would be infinitely playable games because you just play them. There's no start-finish state, right? You start, and then you play, and you play, and you play, and you play. And it's the progression loop of those games is entirely skill-based, right? Now, Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege, kind of the same thing, except they also have live service mechanics. So they have a carrot at the end of the stick that's guiding you to keep playing, goading you to keep playing, hitting your FOMO. And they're designed with the idea of not necessarily providing a complete experience every time. They're designed for you to just play them over and over and over and over and over again, to keep dumping your money into it. It's actually the arcade mentality in a modern game, except now they can do that with very psychologically manipulative live service practices. So that's the idea of infinite playability, right? Well, what's replayability then? What's the difference? Well, replayability is you start a game, you roll credits, and then you have a reason to play the whole packaged experience again, which is not just one thing. Like if I play a fighting game, you're playing a fighting game. You get one match, right? If you play Overwatch, you get one game. It's the same framework every time, except within like a campaign like Final Fantasy Tactics, you're getting a full experience that whole time. You're getting a full story that you're going to re-experience, and you may have a entirely different experience based on your build craft for Final Fantasy Tactics. You can break the game if you want to, or you can do a challenge run, or a solo Ramza run, or a solo Ramza random job run, which is the insane thing to do. And I chose that as my perfect example from the 90s because it's my favorite game of all time. And then from a more modern example would be From Software games. So From Software is kind of this gleaming, shining beacon in the modern gaming industry because they design games with a start-finish state that are replayable. You then can either restart from the beginning or do NG+, and you just keep going, right? And the similarity between these two things is that the idea is that you keep playing one game for a long, long time, possibly forever. It's just with high replayability, there is an end state eventually. Eventually, you've done everything. There's nothing else to do. Infinite playability is the idea that there is always something else to learn or something else to do, and there's more content to consume. Now, I am not making a judgment call about which one of these is better than the other, because I brought up those vintage examples of infinitely playable games like fighting games or RTSs for a reason. It's not bad for a game to be infinitely playable, and it's not better for a game to be highly replayable. The big difference, though, I think, is that infinite playability is built around the idea of stopping you from moving on to other games and other experiences. And this can sometimes lead to a net negative for personal growth, in my opinion, as I feel that the nichification of gaming interests really stops you from enjoying a vast variety of stuff. Now, that's only if the game is really hard manipulating you into playing only it. And I think the point where infinite playability becomes negative is when FOMO is introduced. And you guys have heard the term FOMO. I don't need to explain fear of missing out to you all. But it's something that definitely is a problem and needs to stop. Honestly, it does. And I'm somebody who has enjoyed infinitely playable games before, like Magic the Gathering. That's an infinite playability game because new sets come out and then they stop producing the sets, so you can't go back and get the other sets. On Magic Arena, for instance, the video game version of it, you can't go back and get those other sets and have the same experience. It's not possible. They don't provide that possibility, right? Because it requires other players. And that's very different from the way infinitely playable games in the past worked, because you could play those on your own theoretically, but you can't play Overwatch or Siege or Magic on your own. It's just not possible. And in the case, down to the very foundation of the game, it's not possible. But they also don't provide any way for you to do that because they want you, your time is part of what the whales are paying for. Your time is why the whales are playing the game, right? So even if you're playing it for free to play, or even if you bought in a little bit and you're playing and you're not doing any of the extra microtransaction bits, your time is very valuable to them, so they want you to stay there. And I think that's the point where infinite playability is bad, not the idea of infinite playability on its own. And that was my short little video for you guys today. This thought popped into my head when I was working on the top 25, and I just wanted to share my thoughts really, really fast. So yeah, a very short one this Wednesday, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I want to throw it back to you. What do you guys prefer more? Do you prefer games with high replay value or infinite playability value? Which one do you value as a gamer and as somebody who enjoys this art form? Let's discuss in the comments below, and while you're down there, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I make new gaming videos every Wednesday and Friday, and you may like my other and future work. And hey, if you got a moment right now, maybe consider checking out one of my other videos on the screen. Regardless of what you choose to do, I really appreciate your time this week, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day.